Hello and welcome to episode number 44 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, iHeart Radio. I am esports and gaming insider Jason Fanelli, and folks, it is time. It is finally time, after weeks and weeks and months of waiting. It is Overwatch League opening weekend. If you are listening to this right now on Friday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern when it gets posted for the first time, you have a full slate of 14 Overwatch matches waiting for you. If you're listening to this on the radio, Saturday at 4, half of them will have already happened, but just go get caught up on overwatchleague.com. Trust me, it is finally here. We're going to run down every single match of the weekend in order, including the two that your hometown Fusion are in, as well as a couple other big things that have happened throughout the gaming world this past week. But before we do any of that, let's get right in to the 6 in 60 seconds. The Toronto Ultra win the Call of Duty League Stage 2 Major, handing Atlanta FaZe their first loss of the 2021 season in the final. The league also announces a return to live LAN events with more details coming soon. The League of Legends mid-season showdown sees Cloud9 defeat Team Liquid in the final. The team will represent the LCS North American League in the mid-season invitational in May. WePlay's Ultimate Fighting League announces Season 2 of competition, with Season 1 ending with a Tekken 7 tournament won by Arslan Ash of Pakistan. Meanwhile, Nintendo Indie World's presentation this week revealed new indie games coming to the Switch, including Oxenfree 2, The Longing, and a remake of The House of the Dead. Horizon Zero Dawn's Aloy joins Fortnite's Chapter 2 Season 6 as the latest guest character skin. And finally, Ryu and Chun-Li from Street Fighter joins Power Rangers Battle for the Grid in a new DLC pack coming in May. Those are your 6 in 60 seconds. And the 6 in 60 seconds, as always, are brought to you by our sponsor for the week, Ghost Shaver. Ghost Shaver is a precision cutting system designed to be an extension of your arm. The precision cutting system gives you a close and smooth shave every single time with multiple rotary blades, super thin, flex action, and patented handheld design that fits into the palm of your hand precisely. Go to GhostShaver.com to check it out and get yours today. Ghost Shaver, a shave above the rest. Yes, folks, those are your 6 in 60 seconds for the week. We are going to get into the Indie World presentation in a little while. Second segment tonight's going to talk about that and talk about the Resident Evil presentation that happened on Thursday. That game knocking on the door. We're getting close to the Resident Evil 8. May the 7th, I believe, is the date of Resident Evil 8 Village. So definitely keep an eye out on that if you are a fan of the spooky horror games. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Overwatch League time. That's right. The league is finally back. It is here. It is ready. It is time to stop talking about all the new signings and all the people that need to be temporarily on the team and visas and all this other stuff. And it is time to get down to business. Let's talk about the Overwatch League's opening season this week. So, Friday, April 16th, 3 p.m. So if you're listening to this as the podcast goes live, you have about 6 hours until the season starts. If you're listening to this on Saturday, you will have missed the beginning of the season, but fret not, there are matches for you to watch. We're going to start off on Friday at 3 p.m. with the Houston Outlaws at the Dallas Fuel. Big match, Texas rivalry right out of the gate. Both teams have been preparing for this new season in their own way. I am leaning towards the Houston Outlaws here. Not sure what draws me to that team, but I feel like Houston just had a stronger offseason than Dallas did. I don't feel like Dallas did enough to shore up their team, whereas Houston has a lot of great players on the team, a lot of things going for them, and I'm looking for Houston to knock this out of the park. They got Dante, they got KSF from the Valiant, they took Crimzo from the Fuel, so Crimzo facing his old team. Very interesting wrinkle to this match right there. So, yep, I'm picking Houston over Dallas, as much as I like players like Fearless and Sparkle for the Dallas Fuel. Losing XZI to early retirement does not help the Fuel. Hopefully they can overcome that in match number 1 of the season. Next, we have the LA Gladiators and the San Francisco Shock, Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Hard to vote against the San Francisco Shock, to be completely honest with you. They are the 2-time defending champions. Not sure who is supposed to beat them other than, themselves, and they can't play themselves. In fact, San Francisco Shock beat the world when they did that whole San Francisco Shock versus the world thing in the offseason. So I'm not very confident in the LA Gladiators' chances. Not to say they don't have a lot of good players. They have Moth, who is a Shock alum. They have Space. They have Bird Ring. I like Bird Ring a lot. They have Shu from the Guangzhou Charge. They've got some players. But the Shock, even with the roster changes, even losing Rascal to us and losing other players around the league, they still have Super, they still have Smurf, they still have Choi Hyobin, they still have Violet and Striker, and all of the players that made them great. I do not see them losing to the LA Gladiators on Friday. And that's it for Friday. 2 matches on Friday, and then we have 6 matches each Saturday and Sunday, starting bright and early at 5 a.m. with the Guangzhou Charge and the Shanghai Dragons in the Eastern region. Now, this is one to pay attention to when you wake up. I imagine you will not be awake to see the actual match play out if you're here in Philadelphia, unless you are a night owl or you have children. But this is one to pay attention to because your Philadelphia Fusion are in that division now, lest we forget. So we need to pay attention to every one of the teams on that side so we know who to expect and what to expect from the teams going in. Here I am leaning towards Shanghai. Shanghai, very, very good team. Still has the reigning MVP in Fleta. Still has Void. Still has Lee Jaigan. Still has a lot of great talent on that team. And I just don't know that Guangzhou has made up for the players that they lost with new good players. I do like Eileen, though. Eileen is a good player for the Guangzhou Charge, but I just don't see them overcoming Shanghai in this week number 1. Next is the LA Valiant and the Chengdu Hunters, again on the eastern side. Chengdu Chinese team, LA Valiant, normally obviously a western team, but they are playing over in the Eastern Division, much like we are for the entire 2021 season. The LA Valiant had a bit of a rocky offseason. Basically gave up their entire team, started fresh. They, of the 7 players on their website's roster, only 5 of them even have bio pictures, and the 2 that are there came from different teams, the Hangzhou Spark and the Guangzhou Charge. It's an all-Chinese team that they're going to try and have pull them out of their doldrums. I don't know that they're going to do it in this first match against Chengdu, and I don't think they're going to do it in their second match, which we'll get to. But I feel like Chengdu has a lot of their players coming back. 6 of their biggest players, Ameng, Elsa, Jinmu, Yveltal. It's a Pokemon. I don't know how to say it. Yveltal, I think it is. So I think Chengdu takes LA in their first matchup as well. And then we get to the first of the big ones. We are talking your Philadelphia Fusion, 8 a.m. Saturday morning if you want to watch it live. 12:30 p.m. It's actually one of the designated encore matches, so you can check it out in the afternoon while you're eating lunch if you would like to do that. And your Philadelphia Fusion, man, they're something about this team is just really, really sitting well with me. They have a lot of good new talent in Mano and Rascal and the recently signed Toby and Hotba. Hotba, who was on the original Fusion team that placed second to the London Spitfire in the inaugural season. Plus the new player Shockwave. Of course, we still have Alarm and Funny Astro. So this is a team that I really think can do some damage. Rascal from the Shock is a big thing too. Carpe and Rascal as your damage players, oh boy, that is objectively tough to defend against, and it just happens to be on our team. As for the Seoul Dynasty, this is the team that knocked us out of the playoffs last year, and they still have a good amount of the players that they had before. They still have Profit, they still have Gesture, they still have Marvel One or Marvel Creative. They did add some new players from the New York Excelsior. They added Sebeobi and Anamo. Sebeobi, a great damage player, and Anamo, a great healer. So they have some new faces as well. Not as many new faces as we do, which could play to Seoul's advantage. They have less kinks to work out. Their team chemistry is probably pretty good. But I just think that the talent that we've added, plus the new coaching approach, well, that is kind of a gamble. I don't really know about the new coaching approach yet. I won't know it till I see it. But I think this team could pull it out. I do. I think it's a week 1 win for your Philadelphia Fusion in the first match Saturday morning. I know I'll be hoping for it. Just hope this team comes out hot, looks hot, and kicks some butt in that first match against the Seoul. Remember, 8 a.m. Saturday, 12:30 p.m. is the encore if you want to check that out. If you missed it at 8 a.m., which I wouldn't blame you for, it is 8 a.m. on a Saturday. Nobody wants to be awake at 8 a.m. on a Saturday. But when you play in Asia, you do what you must. So that's when you can catch your Philadelphia Fusion for the first time. 8 a.m. Saturday with a 12:30 encore, if you would rather watch that one instead. So the next one for the Western side, Saturday at 3 p.m., is Toronto Defiant at the Vancouver Titans. Vancouver also in a big-time rebuilding mode after last season's absolute debacle. 2 years ago, they placed runner-up to the San Francisco Shock, and last year they weren't even sniffing the Final Four, let alone doing very well in the playoffs. They have a couple of new players on their side. They have Fire from the Atlanta Reign. They have Fred Winter. Oh boy, that's a weird name. From the Atlanta Reign as well. Linkzer from the Outlaws was a big ad for them. So I am interested to see what Vancouver can do, but I don't know that it's going to start in this first match here with the Toronto Defiant. Toronto Defiant adding 2 of the Fusion's best from last season in Sato and Hisu. So maybe I'm just kind of rooting for them a little bit because I like those 2 players. But they still have Logix and Beast as well. They have Michelle from the Dynasty and Lastro from the Valiant. A lot of good stuff here. And I think Toronto is going to be your winner in that first match up there. Next up, we're looking at the Atlanta Reign taking on the Florida Mayhem. And Atlanta, honestly, something about them just really sticks out to me. I don't know why I'm thinking this. I don't know if it's because most of their players from last year are back. Edison, Gator, Massa, and Hawk. They added Kai from the Valiant. Iris and Pelican are good players as well. Something about this team I have a weird feeling that they're going to do really, really well this year. And I think it starts with a win against the Florida Mayhem. Now, Florida still has BQB, still has Gargoyle, added OGE from the Gladiators, and Slime from the Dynasty. So some good players there as well. I don't want to completely count them out. I think this will be a close one. But I think that Atlanta is going to take it and go 1-0 on Saturday. And then finally, our final Saturday match is the Dallas Fuel and the LA Gladiators. I already talked about both of these teams. I think that both of them are going to be reeling from losses the day before, and I think that in this one, Dallas is going to pull ahead just slightly and take the LA Gladiators out and make up for that loss. So LA Gladiators, I think, will go 0-2 to start. I don't say that lightly, but I just have a feeling that Dallas Fuel will come back from that Houston loss and pick up a win against LA. And then we move to Sunday, the last day of competition, again at 5 a.m. We are talking about the Guangzhou Charge and the Seoul Dynasty. Here I think the Seoul will make up for that loss to the Fusion and take out Guangzhou. Again, Seoul, very, very good team. I really like what they did last year, and I think a lot of those parts are still there, so they can make a deep run in this season as well, starting with Guangzhou on Sunday, not starting with the Fusion. Second match at 6:30 a.m. is Chengdu taking on Shanghai. I think Shanghai wins again here, making it 2-0 on the season for Shanghai. I have a feeling that the Eastern Division, the Eastern side of this board, is going to be Shanghai and Philly Fusion, just back and forth all season long. I really do. I think the two of those teams are going to butt heads the entire year. I'm not sure when they play for the first time. I'll look that up when we get a little further into this. But I think Shanghai goes 2-0 against Chengdu on Sunday at 6:30, and I think that your Philadelphia Fusion goes 2-0 against that all-Chinese LA Valiant team to sweep the weekend, go 2-0 going into week 2 at 8 a.m. Sunday or the 12:30 p.m. encore if you'd like to watch that. And then Sunday at 3 p.m., we have Houston and San Francisco, both coming off wins based on my earlier predictions. And I think San Francisco starts their second straight title defense 2-0 once again. Basically, I'm going to pick them to win until they lose. Unless there's something really wrong with the additions that they've made or something happened with the players that they've brought in, I'm going to pick them until they tell me otherwise. Basically, I'm taking the Atlanta FaZe Call of Duty League route. Until somebody beats San Francisco, I got to pick them. So San Francisco shock over Houston. Houston starts 1-1. San Francisco starts 2-0. Next, I have Florida and Vancouver. I think Florida is going to take this one too. I don't think Vancouver is going to start the season very well, unfortunately. And then finally, Toronto and Atlanta. As much as I like Atlanta and I think they're going to win this one, I will again be rooting for Toronto because of our Fusion brothers that are now on that side of the border playing up there in Toronto. So I have Atlanta winning it, but I'm going to be rooting for Toronto secretly to support our boys Sato and Hisu. So there it is. That is week 1 of the Overwatch League. Now, if you remember the structure, talked about this before. The first is the May Melee. It'll be a couple weeks of qualifiers and then the May Melee tournament. Then there'll be a slight break, and we'll get into the June Joust, which is going to happen May and June, same format, 3 weeks of qualifiers, then the tournament itself. Summer Showdown, June and July, Countdown Cup, July and August, the playoffs, August and September, and the grand finals, once again, in September. Now, unlike last year, where the tournaments were played separately and you had 2 winners, when it gets to the final 2 of each side of the bracket, they're going to meet in Hawaii, I believe it's Hawaii, and play out the final 4s there. So we're going to have one winner from all 4 of these in-season tournaments before the playoffs begin in August. I think it's better. I think it's a better way to do it. I think it makes more sense to get all the teams involved and have one definitive winner instead of having a bunch of players bouncing around back and forth. You have 2 winners in each tournament. It just doesn't work as well for me. So I dig that approach very much. So coming up in the next couple of weeks, so this week we have Seoul and LA Valiant. Next week we have Hangzhou and Chengdu. Hangzhou Spark do not play this week. Then we have Chengdu next Sunday, the 25th. Then we have a little bit off. We have week 3 of qualifiers for the May Melee off because we'll have played our 4 matches. And then the tournament itself, we don't know where we're going there yet. Then we come back May 22nd for the June Joust qualifiers against the Excelsior of New York and the Chengdu Hunters once again. 4th of July at 6:30 a.m. is the first time we play Shanghai. As I said, I think we're going to be butting heads with them all season long, but the first time we're going to go head-to-head is on America's birthday. So USA, USA, USA indeed. Welcome back, Philadelphia Fusion. Welcome back, Overwatch League. Man, we have missed you. All right, moving on now. Again, normally I would have it on tap this week, but there's only one game to really talk about coming to the new consoles this week, and that is MLB The Show 2021, making its way to the Xbox Series X for the first time, Xbox for the first time ever, and the PlayStations 4 and 5. That's really the only game worth really getting into as far as what's coming out this week. So then we can move on to our second topic of the evening, and that is just a brief recap of a couple of things that went down this week, some showcases that are worth talking about. And the first one is Resident Evil 8. Now, this one happened today, Thursday, the day I'm recording this, at 6 p.m. So the information's only been out about 2.5 hours based on my recording time, and now you know when during the day I record. So what was announced here? The big announcements from this one were there wasn't really a whole lot to really dig into. The big thing is that there's new demos coming for Resident Evil 8. It sounds like there's going to be a demo a week or a different thing to play every week between now and the May 7th launch. There's a brand new trailer that featured all the different characters, including the internet's favorite lady, Lady Dimitrescu, who the internet has been drooling about ever since this game was first announced. The big, tall lady, everyone going full Tormund Giantsbane.
The big woman still here?
Wanting to see more Lady Dimitrescu. And I got to be honest with you, they know. They knew. They can say they were surprised. They can say this, that, and the other. They knew that this reaction was coming. And they're going to make you regret it when you play this game and Dimitrescu turns into a huge, awful monster. And that thirst that you have for this big old lady is going to turn into horror real quick. They are playing with you, internet. They are playing you like fiddles. So as long as you know that, as long as you know it's coming and you're prepared for it, then good on you. But just be ready. They're messing with you. They're playing with your heartstrings. Telling you right now. But another big thing from the showcase was that the Mercenaries mode is coming back. The timed survival mode from previous Resident Evil games. In fact, the mode got its own standalone game, I believe on the 3DS or the DS, one of those two handhelds, where it features different characters from the entire series, and you have to get through different stages in a certain amount of time or kill a certain amount of enemies. Very, very cool mode. I'm glad it's coming back. Mercenaries was definitely one of the best parts of like RE4 and RE5 back in the day. And then speaking of RE4 VR is coming to the Oculus Quest. Now that is interesting. They're taking the first-person perspective from Resident Evil 7 and 8, and they're putting it into RE4. I wonder if this is the product of all of the RE4 remake rumors that we were hearing a while back. I imagine it's a different project. I think the RE4 remake is going to be a little more substantial, kind of like how RE2 and 3 were. But getting on Oculus Quest is really, really cool. I'm interested to see how that works. I don't know that I'm going to play it because I'm a bit of a wuss when it comes to horror games like that, but I'll definitely take people's advice as to how it is. But we also saw a brief trailer for the Netflix show coming in July, Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. We got an update on the live-action movie reboot that's coming later this year. Filming has apparently completed, and now they're adding the CGI monsters and everything like that. And then the final announcement was a collaboration with Dead by Daylight, which is a other horror game which puts 4 survivors against one monster. First one to die, or if the 4 can survive, they win, or if the monster kills everybody, they win. Very Friday the 13th, if you remember that game that came out a couple years ago, but with different monsters. They've collaborated with Silent Hill before. They've collaborated with Leatherface, and Saw, I believe, had one as well. Whole bunch of different horror franchises have collaborated, plus their own original things. But it looks like Resident Evil will be next, and we're going to get a full reveal of that in May, leading up to the digital E3 2021. So that was the Resident Evil 8 showcase. A good taste of what's to come, as the game is only about 3-4 weeks away. Those who were looking for more information got it. Those that were looking for more gameplay footage got that too. And then they got information on demos that are happening between now and launch. So gotta love what you see there. The second one is Nintendo's Indie World. Nintendo had a big Indie World presentation showing off a bunch of indie games coming to the console very, very soon. Started with a quirky game called Road 96 with over 100,000 different paths that the story can take. A procedural road trip adventure called Road 96. Trailer was really, really cool, showing the same scene playing out in different ways with different characters and different dialogue. I can only imagine how big that script is. Power to whoever wrote that. Good on you, sir or madam. Then we had a game, Aerial Knights Never Yield. This was a parkour-infused 3D runner game and a very cool-looking Tokyo-style Detroit. Everything was basically themed around this. Like, everyone's from Detroit. The artist is from Detroit, making the soundtrack, and the head developer, Aerial Knight, who is a black streamer, is from Detroit as well. So he wanted to bring some of that Detroit flavor into the game. He had a really cool segment in this Indie World presentation. Looks like a cool game. eShop demo is out now, and then the Switch, it comes out May 19th. So if you like runners, if you like things like Temple Run, but a little bit different from that, Bit Trip Runner, things like that, might be right up your alley there. Annapurna Interactive, one of the best indie developers or publishers that there is right now, showed 2 different games. One called Last Stop, featuring 3 intertwined stories with a bit of a supernatural edge to it, where one person's in another person's body, so on and so forth. That's coming in July. Where Hindsight, which is made by a man named Joel McDonald, is a game that spans the entirety of a woman's life from the day she's born to the present. That arrives a little later this year as well, but did not have a designated date. That's a cool trailer, Hindsight. Definitely check that one out. That one definitely caught my eye. And Annapurna, if you've never heard of Annapurna, you've never seen an Annapurna game, Annapurna makes good stuff. That's just what they do. Annapurna is one of the best publishers and developers that there is for indies right now. Anything they do is gold, and I make sure you keep an eye on both of those games, but Hindsight, in my opinion, specifically. And then Ollie Ollie, if you like the skateboarding game, Ollie Ollie coming back in a game called Ollie Ollie World, bringing back the two-dimensional skateboarding into Switch this winter. And then we came to a very interesting title, which actually released yesterday, right after the presentation, called The Longing, out of a German studio called Studios Sufs, I think it is. So you play as a servant to a king. His name is Shade. And the king gets inside a mountain and he says, I'm going to fall asleep and I'll wake up in 400 days. And you just, keep yourself busy until I wake up, which is fine. So you're in these caverns and you're finding things to do. You're finding ways to pass the time. You can build your little area that you're living in as you're waiting for the king to wake up. The hook is that the game takes place in real time. So the amount of time that passes in the game is real to the amount of time you're playing the game. And when you start the game, the king wakes up 400 days later. So feasibly, if you started the game as soon as it came out yesterday, on Wednesday, the 14th, then you can't finish that game until May of 2021, because that's 400 days from now. It's a very interesting experiment. I don't know how many people are going to go back and check it out, or how many people that are going to remember that this game is ending at that time. But it's an interesting experiment, and I wonder what's going to happen at the end of those 400 days when the king finally awakens. Because the big struggle I feel like there is making it worth it. If you have someone who checks in on this game every day for over a year, and then you wake that king up and nothing happens, that's gonna really tick some people off. So I'm interested to see how this experiment goes. I don't know what's gonna happen, but very interesting, Studio Sufs. Let's see what you got. Also came out yesterday is a silly point-and-click comedy game called There Is No Game Wrong Dimension. This is on the PC. I dabbled with a little bit with it on the PC version before it launched on the Switch. And it's just a journey through different video game genres and universes and styles, doing all these silly things. It's like a game that doesn't want to be played and is trying its best not to make you play it. It's an interesting concept, one I recommend looking into if you can. We then got new footage for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, and my ears perked all the way up to the ceiling. Dotemu and Tribute Games. Man, this game looks good, and I'm happy that it's coming to the Switch so I can play it wherever I go. That's very exciting. This game looks so dang good. Every time I see it, I just want more, and big into that. Very much so. Next one, Chris Tales, which has basically been in every indie showcase Nintendo has done since the first one, I think. Finally has a release date of July 20th, 2021. Played a demo of this last year. Very interesting little RPG-style game. Very cool visual format, visual style. One to keep an eye on also there. Then this next one by a developer named Guru called Getzo Fumaden Undying Moon really caught my eye. So it's going to be like a roguelike, a Metroidvania 2D, but with martial arts style combat, inspired by traditional Japanese ukiyo-e art. Really striking trailer from this game. And I'm hoping that next year is early next year, because the more I watched the trailer a couple times, 2 or 3 times, and every time it just looked better and better and better. So I'm hoping I don't have to wait too long to get that one on my Switch, because that immediately got circled by me. And another one that did was a game called Aztec, with an H, Aztec, Forgotten Gods, by a developer called Lienzo. Very striking looking, once again, very cool trailer for a 3D action adventure. Tells a story of a young Aztec woman on a quest that pits her against ancient deities. We've seen that before, a small man going against ancient deities, and Shadow of the Colossus. Didn't really get that feel from this game, but who knows? Could be a tribute to that, which would be awesome. But that's another one to circle on your calendar there. Skull, the Hero Slayer, another roguelite 2D platformer by developer Southpaw Games, was next. And then Art of Rally, which is a weird top-down racer. Looks interesting, but we'll see how it plays on the Switch. We then saw clips of Kiwi, which is a puzzler where you play as tiny kiwi birds at a post office. Yep, it's a weird concept, but I like weird concepts, so we'll see what happens there. Labyrinth City, which is like a puzzle game, a detective-style game. It looks very much like a Where's Waldo or something like that. The graphic style and running through this village and buildings and all these people. I did like what I saw there. Weaving Tides was a dungeon crawler exploration puzzler sort of game. Not a whole lot going on there. It was part of a big montage. And then out of nowhere in this montage, they just decided, hey, we're going to show you a remake of The House of the Dead, the classic arcade shooter, light gun game actually, is coming to Switch later this year. Now, this is from the same team that did the Panzer Dragoon remake, which your mileage may vary. I thought it was okay, but I can see where people say it's not that great. So House of the Dead remake coming this year to the Switch. That was cool. Another Metroidvania-style game, but this one a dark fantasy fairy tale, as quoted by the developer themselves. Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights is coming on June the 22nd. Beasts of Maravilla Island, which was just a little adventure in a magical ecosystem with puzzles to be solved and animals to talk to, and you're playing as a photographer, so you'll be taking pictures as well. Fez, a classic indie game, one of the pillars of the indie scene, I would say, back when it was first forming, like with Braid and Machinarium and games like that. Came out 9 years ago, April 13th, so 9 years ago this week. And to celebrate, they have put it on the Switch. So now that game is on the Switch, and you should go play it because it's awesome. It's a puzzle game where you're going through these different areas, but you can turn your perception of the world, and every time you turn it, you can access different platforms and solve puzzles. Really, really cool game. And then your final game of the presentation was Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals. Oxenfree 1 by Night School Studio came a couple years ago. This 5 years after that game will be this new one. I have not played Oxenfree, but my rule is if there's ever a game that I missed and it's good enough to get a sequel, I probably should go back and try the first one. So Oxenfree is now on my calendar. I do want to try and knock that out before the second one comes out so that I am in the loop. So there's your indie world. Pretty good presentation. Very strong portfolio of games. You had your Shadow drops. You had your games coming soon. You had your one more announcement in Oxenfree 2. A couple of games that were missing. I would have liked to have seen some Axiom Verge. I would have liked to have seen some Hollow Knight Silksong, wherever that is. Team Cherry, what are you doing? But cool stuff. Very, very cool stuff. And I liked what I saw, and I hope the games come out soon so we can play them and enjoy them all together. But although between Resident Evil in May, MLB The Show coming out this week, and a whole lot of others, it's not like I'm at a loss for games. But these little indie titles sometimes really come out of the woodwork and shock me looking at you, Lost Words, beyond the page. So I'm hoping that one of these indie games can do the same. And finally tonight, here on Cheesesteaks and Controllers, I would like to have a moment of silence, a eulogy for a pillar of my gaming life from the years 2007 to 2013, including the year I was married, the year I moved out, the year I graduated from college, all in that range. And that is the death, the removal of the PlayStation Network store for the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation Portable, and the PlayStation Vita. In July, it has been confirmed by Sony, all 3 of those digital shops will cease to be, and you'll no longer be able to buy software from those stores. You'll be able to access what you bought before. You'll still be able to download your stuff, which is good. But as I learned in the research for this piece, it's a very clunky experience, so be ready for it. But the ability to buy more things from those shops will be lost sometime in July. And I wanted to go through, specifically on the PlayStation 3, and talk about some games that either you may have missed or that you may have forgotten about, or some titles that if you have a PS3 still lying around, or if you can get one cheap, or however, if you're interested in checking these out before they go away, I highly recommend that you do so, because they are excellent games, worthy of your time, and some of them even serve as precursors to games that you're probably playing now, including the first one I'm going to talk about. That game is called Supersonic Aerobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars, which is an interesting name, a ridiculous name, but a concept that you may have heard of before. It has rocket-powered cars in an arena with a big ceiling, and they drive around in teams of 2 or 3 or 4 and basically play soccer. Does that sound familiar? Sounds like Rocket League, does it not? This Supersonic Aerobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars, say that 5 times fast, was also developed by Psyonix, and it is the precursor, the foundation, the DNA of Rocket League. Released, 6 years before the actual Rocket League came out. So, if you want to see what Rocket League was like in the beginning, in its predecessor, check it out. Supersonic Aerobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars. That's fun to say. Put that on your list. I forgot it existed, but I didn't even know it existed, to be honest with you. But I'm definitely going to download it now that I know that it's there and just see what all the hubbub was about before Rocket League came and became the real deal. I also want to highlight one of the studios that will see a lot of its games go away, which is a shame, because in that time, with all the blockbusters like Uncharted and things like that, Little Big Planet, God of War, Japan Studio was doing a lot of small, quirky, really appreciated games. One was called Rain, where you played as it was a little platformer puzzle style game where you could only walk where it was raining, and you had to save your friend and go through this whole adventure. That one really stuck with me. I reviewed that for Gamer Node, I believe, way back in the day. That game always stuck with me. I want to make sure I download that again before the store closes, so put that on your radar. But more importantly, right now I'm talking about Tokyo Jungle. Tokyo Jungle is a game where human life has ceased to be, and you are playing as animals in the city of Tokyo, and animals of all shapes and sizes. You're playing as Pomeranians, you're playing as deer, beagles, lions, and you're going through the city of Tokyo figuring out what happened to make human life extinct. It's a full story mode featuring different animals of different sizes, and it escalates throughout the entire game. It can be tough. You're fighting for your life against some of these other animals, and combat can get crazy, but it's a ton of fun. And then they added a survival mode where you can see how long you can survive and how many attackers you can fend off before you die in the game. And you can also pick your animal, so you can see how many other animals you can take out as a little tiny Pomeranian dog or as a giant lion. Completely up to you. But Tokyo Jungle is a game that needs recognition before it goes away. And that's one that I would hope that you would check out when the time comes, if you have the PS3 available to you. Another one from them, The Last Guy, which was a game where you are playing as a hero, looking at a top-down city, so you're way up in the sky, looking at a city, and you're trying to lead people to evacuate a city that's being destroyed by giant Godzilla-style monsters. But the hook of this game is all of the cities that you're trying to save the people in are actual real-life cities, and their maps are images from Google Earth. This came out in 2008, so this is a 13-year-old game that was using Google Earth for its stages in a game where you're trying to save as many civilians as you can. Again, quirky, silly kind of game, but perfect right out of the Japan Studio portfolio, and a game that's really, really, really cool, especially with its Google Maps, Google Images use, Google Maps use. Honestly, check this one out if you can. There's 12 levels, so you'll play it for a while. You just try and guide them to the escape zone before time runs out. The more you save, the better you do. The higher you score. It's just really, really silly, but really, really fun. And I recommend that you give it a shot if you can. And another one that they made is called Trash Panic. So the Trash Panic is basically Tetris, but instead of blocks, it's trash. So like old microwaves and propane tanks and stuffed animals and stuff like that. So you're basically just trying to break down all this trash by putting it next to like pieces until the hole before the trash can overflows. Think about like Candy Crush or Tetris or Dr. Mario, where you're just trying to break things by putting them next to each other before the whole trash can fills. It starts out with small stuff, household items, and eventually you're dealing with like meteors. So there's a lot of silly stuff going on in this game. Again, it's Japan Studio. Again, it was released in the late aughts, 2009 specifically, and that's one you should have on your radar. It really is. It's a game that you should be making sure is on your list of priorities once your PS3 is done on the store in July. And then I'm going to talk about the games that I downloaded, the games that I had purchased previously that will be going away forever. Some of these games have already gone away. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is a big one, and Marvel vs. Capcom Origins, if you did not purchase them before, you cannot purchase them anymore. You can still get them if you purchase them, but you can't buy them outright again. They're done. They're not coming back. I made the mistake of buying Marvel vs. Capcom Origins on the Xbox, not on the PlayStation, so I don't think I can ever get it back. But I'm going to look and make sure before the store goes down. But there's also like Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. There's also Darkstalkers, which may be the best version of Darkstalkers ever made. The little HD remake that they did of Darkstalkers for PS3 game is so good. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure HD Remix, which is a silly Capcom fighter that they remade. I forgot they remade it, but it was in my downloads, so I downloaded that too. So a bunch of like older stuff like that. And then there's the old PS1 games. You're running out of ways to play PS1 unless you have the retro consoles, particularly with the PSP and the Vita going away. At one point, the Vita that I owned, I sadly don't anymore, would like to, but I don't have a Vita anymore, was just a Final Fantasy machine. It had all the Final Fantasies 1 through 10, the ones that were backwards compatible that were on there, the ones that were their own standalone were on there too, and I could play Final Fantasy whenever I wanted. The Vita was really good for that. The PS3 is really good for that too. So if there's old PS1 games that you haven't played yet, or that you want to go through the store and pick up and download and have ready for when the store closes, do it now. Go get Mega Man Legends. Go get Parasite Eve. Go get Tronbon Adventures. Tronbon Adventures, by the way, Misadventures of Tronbon, is $650 physically. So if you don't download it this way, you might not be able to. For the PSP, go get Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions. Go get Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together. And if you have the Vita, get those too. If you have the Vita, there are games that you can play on other consoles. The Danganronpa series comes to mind, but they were made for the Vita. So they should be played on the Vita. If you have a Vita, get Danganronpa. So there's a lot of things you should be looking at. If you have a PS3, hook it up real quick. Go into your store. Download the things you want to download before they go away. Make sure you buy the things you want to buy before they go away. And just have them ready on a PS3. So that way, whenever you want to play them, all you have to do is plug it in and go. Because that's what your PS3 is going to be in July. And I think that's the most disappointing part of it, is the lack of preservation. The lack of keeping games alive, and not just in the online sense. You're hearing about online servers being shut down and stuff like that. Ubisoft just announced this week they're shutting down a bunch of servers like Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2 and Assassin's Creed 2 on the PC, that multiplayer, stuff like that. Game preservation is a big problem in the industry. The developers and publishers just don't seem to care about keeping the games in a place where people can access them long after their shelf life has expired. And this is just a great example of that. I was reading that between the three consoles, Vita, PSN, and PS3, there are only 138 or so games that will no longer be available anywhere at all once this PSN closure happens. And that's a shame. I don't think that's fair to the developers that made the game. I don't think it's fair to the people who love those games. I don't think it's fair to anyone, really, that this is happening. And if there's a way that we can keep those games alive, through legal means, I'm not going to advocate piracy. I'm not going to do that. But if the only way to get these games is closing, how else are we supposed to enjoy them? PT on PS4 is a great example. That was a playable teaser for a new Silent Hill game between Konami and Hideo Kojima. The relationship soured, and PT was pulled. And if you didn't have it downloaded to your PS4, you were never going to see it again. That was it. Done. And that's a shame. We should be treasuring the games that come out, not letting them go by the wayside. And I know that there are hundreds of games coming out every single day. There are hundreds of updates. Games being made every single day, There are hundreds of updates and new releases from the biggest AAA games to the games on the Xbox Live PlayStation Network stores that you'll never hear about, let alone actually purchase and play. There's tons of games everywhere, and I get that. But that doesn't mean that we should let the games that are no longer in the spotlight just go by the wayside. The fact that I had to worry about Marvel vs. Capcom 2 downloading was a shame. I'm already hearing that some of the games that I didn't have a chance to update won't work either. So I'm fretting turning the console back on and not being able to play Third Strike or not being able to play the PS1 classics like I should be able to. And that to me is a travesty. Game preservation is something we should all be focused on. We should all be working on. And it's something that is really a no-brainer. Like, Disney may take some of their movies off the market and put them in the vault, but at least they still have them. And whenever they want, they can re-release them to the masses in DVD or streaming format or what have you. And those movies will never be vaulted again. Now, the vault is less effective with Disney Plus. All those movies are now on a streaming service. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe you take some of these old games, you upload them to a Stadia or a PlayStation Now or an Xbox Game Pass just so they can live on. Even if you want to make them free or charge them less. I mean, Xbox already has the backwards compatibility going, so you can play the original Xbox and the 360 games. Just keep that up. Keep that going. PlayStation needs to figure out their Game Pass, because once they do that, their PS1 through 4 backwards compatibility capabilities will go through the roof. Just need to figure it out. But PlayStation Network for PS3, PSP, and Vita, I'm sorry to see you go. I hope that if you are listening to this and there are things that you want, that you take care of that before it's too late, and that that you enjoy the gaming, whatever it is, whatever games you decide to go for in the future. And with that, that is the end of episode 44 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, and iHeartRadio. I am esports and gaming insider Jason Fanelli, and as always, I thank you so much for listening to me. If you're listening to these words right now, that means you got to the end of the episode, and I cannot thank you enough for your support. You can find me. I just wrote a new piece for MMORPG.com about Core, a fantastic computer, PC-based hub where you can create your own games and share them with the world. Just hit the Epic Games Store today, Thursday, with 20,000 games already made by their community and counting. I had the chance to go through an hour-and-a-half demo with the CEO of the company and the chief marketing officer and a couple other guys, and we played some of the creations that these people made. There was a full-on MMO called Core Haven Chronicles. There was shooter games. There was platforming games. There was unique word-based games. It's a cool read, so go check out my piece over at mmorpg.com on Core. And then I have some other things cooking that maybe you'll hear about in the future for the show and not for the show. We'll see what comes to fruition here. And I hope you keep supporting me. I hope that you like what I put out. I hope that you like the content that I'm creating and that I can keep creating it for you every day, because it's what I love to do. And I hope that you love that which I provide, is what I'm trying to say. With that, this has been episode 44. Thank you so much for listening. Until next week, as always, have a great one. Goodbye.